Let's be honest, few humans enjoy meetings, and many feel trapped in meetings. As leaders, we don't want to burden those we lead, but meetings can seem to do that more often than not. We wanted to address the pain of meetings through the Meetings with Saints library. Here we have 15 plus presentations dedicated to improving the meetings we run. We have experts in the field addressing topics like getting people involved in meetings, staying on task, dealing with conflict in meetings, and a ton more. We'd love you to explore the full Meetings with Saints library over 14 days at no cost to you. You can do this by visiting leadingsaints.org/14. That's leadingsaints.org/14. We'll also give you access to all of our virtual libraries that educate about other leadership topics. It's really good stuff, so visit leadingsaints.org/14 or click the link in the show notes. Hey, if you're a newbie to Leading Saints, it's important that you know, what is this Leading Saints thing? Well, Leading Saints is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping Latter-day Saints be better prepared to lead. And the way we do that is through content creation. So we have this phenomenal podcast, we have a newsletter, we have virtual conferences, so much more. And articles on our website. I mean, I could go on and on, right? And we encourage you to jump in, check out Leading Saints, go to the search bar at leadingsaints.org and type in some topics and see what pops up. We're just glad you're here to join us. I'd like to welcome Norbert Ounleu to the Leading Saints podcast. How are you, Norbert?
I'm fine.
Good. Now, this is a cool interview because I don't get the chance, or I probably need to take more of a chance to interview people in the thriving part of the church, which is Africa. And you're in the Ivory Coast. Is that right?
Yeah, Ivory Coast in West Africa, close to Ghana.
And are you born and raised there?
Yes, west of Ivory Coast.
Nice. Very good. And born and raised in the church, or?
Oh, no, I'm converted.
And how does, I know you could probably talk hours about that experience, but maybe just 5 to 10 minutes. How did you get introduced to the church and what led to your baptism?
The church at that time was very new in the country. Maybe one district with 3 branches. And I don't know anything about the church. And my friends gave me the Book of Mormon. I never heard about that kind of book. And she said I should keep it for her. When she wants it, I can send back. And I went home and read the book. And I was so much impressed, even from the first verse, I defy, I've been born.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was so much impressed. I don't know how long it took, but I think maybe 1 month to read the whole book.
Oh, wow.
And I was really convinced that was the word of God.
And were you, at this point in your life, were you like seeking for a deeper meaning or God, or were you religious at the time?
No, not really. I was not really interested about religion, and I was not worshiping in any church. But I love to read, and the book was so much powerful when I read. So, and because she said it was given by missionaries, I said, okay, how the missionaries look like? She said, okay, North American and Africans, they are in white shirts and black tag. Okay, so she was not there because she was far from me. So I went out to look for missionaries. Luckily, the branch was not too far from me where I was living. And I saw the missionaries in the road, I think 3 days later. And I called them to come to my home so we can talk.
Nice.
And when they came, they were so well dressed, clean. I said, wow, I want to be like them.
Nice. And then what year was this and how old were you?
I was 25. It was 1995.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So were you married at this time?
No, I was single. And
okay.
So it was in 1995. I was single, and I went to school. And the friend also was single.
Nice. And by the time you met the missionaries, how long did it take until you were baptized?
Oh, I think less than 3 weeks,
Okay.
because I was just telling them, go, let me be baptized. I was not really interested by what they were saying, because my testimony of the Book of Mormon was so strong. So it was not, there were no question about what they were teaching, because I was already convinced that it's true.
You're the what they call the golden investigator that we all dream of, right, on our missions.
Yes, that's true.
That's great. Now, did you have a Christian background? Did you already have a belief in Jesus Christ?
No, my mom and dad were Muslim. And so I grew up in the Muslim family. So it's not a Christian background. I saw my mom praying 7 times a day. And but as a young boy, she was not forcing me to pray. So I was not practicing her religion, because my dad passed away when I was 4 years old. So I was with my mom.
And then how would you describe the church at that point in 95 when you got baptized?
Yes, the church was very new, and it was not well known by people. And maybe three or four branches on the whole country. So the members the people joining the church was very few. When we go, for example, to the sacrament meeting, we cannot be more than 25. So it was just a small group of people joining the church.
Nice. And then it's sort of a whirlwind of your life began, I think. So how soon, what was like your first calling in the church? Do you remember?
Yes, I was a Sunday school teacher, but I know not anything about how to teach the gospel. But what impressed me is my first 2 Sunday, I was assigned to give a talk. So that was really what impressed me. And I invited my friend to come to see me teach, giving my talk. And so after that, I became a Sunday school teacher in the branch. And later on, because I was excited and very, I love to be a missionaries. They called me as a missionary, is a branch mission leader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and maybe that was sort of your first leadership role in the church?
Yes, that's the very first one.
Nice. And then have you always had a talent for teaching? Because I know that your career sort of led through the church education. Was that something you always had a talent for?
Oh, no, I learned when I joined the church, I was not really teaching. And that's what the church is doing, changing people to the best.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So what was your, after being the branch mission leader, what was maybe the next leadership calling that you came into?
Yeah, when I joined the church and I interested to go on mission, and it was denied because I'm 25 and I'll be 26 before getting the priesthood. So my family decided that I should go to South Africa to study. So I left the country. I went to South Africa for maybe 7, 8 months. And it was not very successful. Things are very hard and very expensive. So I came back to the country, and they called me as a young man president.
Nice.
That's the second leadership position.
Okay. And then at what point did you meet and marry your wife? And was she already a member of the church?
Yeah, she was not yet when she was giving me the Book of Mormon.
Oh, she's the one that gave you the Book of Mormon.
Yes, she was investigating the church.
Okay, maybe I missed that detail. Okay.
Yeah, she was investigating the church, and her uncle refused to have missionaries, and even the Book of Mormon is home. And because she can't keep the Book of Mormon with her where she lives, that's why she gave it, and she came to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I was baptized, I called her because she was far from me, and I said, okay, maybe if you come here, you may know more about the church. And she came and have a missionary lesson, and 1 month later she was baptized.
Oh, cool. So you're both baptized around the same time, and then how long
Same
until
time.
and then how long until you got married?
Marriage, that's a good one, because before, when she was baptized, and I went to my branch president telling him that I want to go on mission. And she said, no, I'm sorry, you are 25, almost 26, but it's too late, but you have a second chance. If you get married, you will go on mission.
Oh, nice. Someday, right?
Yeah, he didn't say someday. He said just you're married, you go on mission.
Oh, nice.
And so I said, okay, that's fun. I will try. But we were too close, my friends and I. So I said, okay, that's what is happening. So if we are married, so I can go on mission.
Nice.
And we got married. I think I was baptized in April. In March, she was baptized in April. I think 6 months later, we got married. We were in the school, and I didn't go on mission like he said.
Yeah. Yeah, not yet anyways, right?
Yeah, that's why I went to South Africa to study.
Oh, okay. So when you went to South Africa, you were married at that time, and you just went alone?
I was already married. I went to South Africa, but came very quickly because things were so tough, very difficult. Yeah.
And how old were you when you were called as a bishop?
I was 27 years old.
Wow.
So then 25, and 2 years later, I was called as bishop, because 2 years later, the district became a stake.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that was also a very good story. In my branch, where I was living, I was the only one married.
Oh, really?
Civil marriage.
Nice.
I was looking for someone who can be a bishop, but
the list was short, huh?
Yeah, there was families, old people, but it was only traditional marriage.
Gotcha.
The church wanted to follow the law of the country, so that's who was looking for civil marriage, and I was the only one. Maybe that's likely I became a bishop.
Nice. And you were sealed as well?
No, not because the temple was not yet. The temple was in South Africa. I was endowed, but not my wife. But when I became a bishop, the church helped us to travel to South Africa to be sealed.
Cool. Oh, really? That's great. Nice. So you were the only married, at least the only civil married individual, is that right? In the ward. Yeah. And you were endowed as well, so that probably...
I was endowed, yeah. I think that's why, not because I know something.
Nice. Well, I was called as a bishop at 28, and it was an inner city ward in Salt Lake, and I think it was a similar scenario. The list was pretty short, and they went with me. So I know the feeling. So, but you were, 2 years into from your conversion to the church, and you say you didn't know a lot. What was that like? Stepping into that role and figuring it out.
Very strange, because I think. Missionaries, because I love them, they were my good friends. Yeah. And I think I was bishop, but in brackets, it was led by the missionaries.
Oh, really? So you look towards the missionaries, maybe on certain questions and things.
Exactly. They were close to me. And when, for example, one day someone was baptized, a man, and they said, okay, bishop, do you know that you need to have an Aaronic priesthood? I said, what is Aaronic priesthood?
Oh my goodness. That is great. Wow.
Yeah, and they were just helping me. I'm so grateful for what they did.
Oh my goodness! And were these two missionaries from like a more established part of the church, maybe like from the United States, or?
Yeah, from the United States.
Okay,
Yes.
so they
Yeah.
had seen it all their life, and so they could help you with those little details.
Yeah. They were surprised to see someone who doesn't know more about the church to be a bishop, but
Yeah,
they were so kind,
yeah,
and they knew I need to learn more,
yeah.
and they
And I
were
bet
very
you learned fast, right?
yes, because we were always so every Thursday when I closed I closed to work, I joined them and we proselyte in the community.
Mm.
So when they see them and me, we were like the same age.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, they probably weren't much younger, right? So
Yes, yeah.
that's great. So what, I mean, if you were to go back in time and talk to yourself on the first week of being bishop, like what advice would you give to yourself?
I would just say, be humble. You don't know anything.
Mm.
Let's follow the spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how would you describe your ward at that time? I get this because it was a new ward, right? They just created it from a branch, and then
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people were coming on Sundays, and how did you run your meetings, anything like that?
This ward was also a very active ward. We maybe 40, 50 members were coming, and we were worshiping under a tree. I think you saw the pictures in the church news,
Mm-hmm.
and but people were still coming because there were no chapel rented building
Oh
in
wow!
the yeah.
So you just
So
rented a building and made it
yeah,
work.
we did. The church bought a land, and they were building the chapel. And we went to there was school close to us, so we were worshiping in the school. And
Mm.
the school owner said they don't want the church there, and there were no space for us. So the church was to go under a tree to pray until the church building was completed.
Wow! And so how long until the church was completed in your area?
I think it took almost a year and a half.
Wow!
Yeah.
And then you had your very own church that was
Yeah.
yours. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. What were some of the like the demands? What did people ask you for as the bishop? I mean, was there a lot of repentance concerns, or a lot of welfare, or what was that like? Just the day-to-day responsibilities of a bishop there.
I think there were two major things people was looking for. First one is welfare, and the second one how to accomplish their calling.
Mm.
Yeah, to know more about what they have to do.
Yeah. And then as far as welfare is concerned, is there a high demand, or what's poverty like there compared to other African nations? Was that a significant part of what you did? Was that welfare?
I think the area where we were, it was the poorest area in Abidjan. Abidjan is the capital, so the demand was so high.
Wow. And did people come to you mainly looking for food, or for rent, help with housing?
Housing, food, rent, health issue.
Yeah. And then I would imagine, just like bishops across the world, you had access to write a check, or is that how it would work? You'd write a check and give it to them, or to their landlord, or do you only work in cash there, or like how did that work?
I think here's the catch area.
Okay.
And we write the church, and they will go and catch it to the bank and use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So you or your counselors would, if someone needed money for rent, you would go to the bank and get cash?
No, we give the check to the member, and he will go himself to the bank.
I gotcha. Okay, so you'd print the check out or create the check, and then they would take it to the bank and go from there, right? And then I would imagine, I mean, here in Utah, we have all sorts of bishop storehouses around that if someone needs food, we can send them to a bishop storehouse. But if someone needs food there, what does a bishop do?
You give him the check, you go to the supermarket or local market to buy the food.
Gotcha. And then did you have any additional help, like members that were assigned to help people get food or with help them with their finances or anything like that? Or was it just you giving the check and assessing the situation?
Yeah, I think the majority of members have the same situation. So 100% rely on the church.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then how long did you serve as bishop?
3 years.
Okay. And then were you called as a stake president?
Stake president, yes.
So what's the story behind being called a stake president?
I don't know. The stake after 3 years was divided to be 2 stakes, and we all went to the interview, and that's how I was called. So I don't know what's happened.
Yeah, so you just did the interview thing, and then they called you back and said, "You're our man," right?
Yeah. So
nice.
Yes.
And then how long did you serve as stake president?
5 years.
Okay. And then, so what was that experience like being a stake president? What was the day-to-day like?
Stake president was really different than bishop. Yeah. And you have to manage bishops and work with them to do what to do. And bishop, when you are bishop, you are close to the members. But stake president, you are close to bishops and try to establish the church. Mm-hmm. So they can run the church as it should be. So
yeah,
if I have a choice, I would better choose bishop than stake president.
Yeah, yeah, because you get to work closer with the people, right? I remember that feeling for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, tell me about just how many bishops or wards did you have in your stake at that time?
It's like 11. We started with 9, and later it became 11 wards.
And then how big was the geographics of your stake?
It was half of the city because they divided the city into 2. One half for the stake and another half in my stake.
So, did it take a long time to travel from one end to the other by car or?
By car, when I was bishop, from there to the stake center, it can take me 2 hours.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yes, to go.
Pretty large area for a stake.
Yes, it was large area.
Yeah, and then working with those 11 bishops or so, and all the leaders in your stake. How did you go about that? Like, what advice would you have for a stake president who's trying to work with other leaders and help them?
I think the one thing to do or to focus is to be united with your counselors. Mm. And I was lucky. My first counselor was an accountant in one of the biggest banks in the country. And the second one was a teacher. So we really work together. And all the finance issue, I give it to my first counselor who have more experience than me. And the training with the handbook, it was given to my second counselor who was teacher. And I work with the Relief Society and other bishops. So it's to be united with counselors and high counselors.
Yeah. So you gave sort of every counselor sort of had their focus of what they were doing, and that seemed to work out pretty well then.
Yes, that was gave me time to work, to have an interview with bishops.
Yeah. And then as you had to select new bishops in various wards in such a place in the world where the church is growing fast, but maybe doesn't have a long history of experience. What was that like? Was it sometimes difficult to find people to step into those roles? Yeah,
not really difficult, but find people who who can really know more about the church. Like myself, it was just 2 years. So sometimes it can be less or just little more than 2 years. So it's a lot of work to train and help them to understand their role.
And so were you doing a lot of like formal training with them where you're sitting down and going over handbooks and things? Is that how you would train them?
Yeah, we have a monthly interview. So when we review the handbook, and we have also state council meeting where we invite state bishops and with the state presidency. So that's where we learn about handbook, and we also answer the questions.
Nice. Very cool. Anything else about your time as stake president, a story or a way you would lead that would be worth mentioning?
I think that's really kept me to follow the handbook. Okay, there were someone who came with a welfare problem. It was so much urgent. So I took the book and the checkbook and said, okay, please give the check to this guy. So it's very urgent. So, but it was not my job. It was a bishop's work. So they called me and said, that's not your duty. Delegate, that's the bishop's. So I think we also, when in Africa, we have a very good leaders in the area presidency. They love people and they are very close to them. So when there are some kind of mistake, they kindly call you and say, okay, please don't do that anymore.
So you had a few of those phone calls where they said, don't do that anymore.
Yes, sometimes.
And that's why you got to be humble, right? Because you got to be willing to.
Yeah. You see, when you receive this kind of call, you know what's going on.
Nice. And how often did you see the interact with the area presidency as a stake president?
I think in our time we have in a year, I think twice, a meeting with the area presidency in Ghana, Accra. But they are no more doing it because the church is too large.
It's grown significantly, right?
So you can't bring all the stake presidents in one place for the training.
Gotcha. And then, so you served as a stake president until you were called as a mission president. Is that right?
Yes.
And what's the story behind being called as a mission president? I hear it. Does it start with a phone call?
There was a phone call, and I think the mission president was already called. So we all know who will be a mission president, President Dio. So he was the one who was called the mission president for Ivory Coast.
Okay.
But before arriving, there was civil war.
Oh, wow.
So the country was so much, this was not stable for him to come.
And so there was a civil war inside the Ivory Coast?
Inside the Ivory Coast.
Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. Not a different country. Okay.
Yes, so they removed the North American missionaries to Ghana.
Okay.
So, but he was not, he have not yet started his mission. So I think the brethren decided to divide the mission, and they added Cape Coast in Ghana. And so Dio was transferred to Cape Coast mission. And I think likely they were looking for someone, a local leader who can do that. And I received a phone call. And it was Elder Scott, yes.
Oh, Elder Scott, cool.
Yes, Elder Scott, to interview and explain the call.
Nice. So I know that for a lot of mission presidents, they'll get an initial phone call maybe 9 months before they'd actually leave on their mission. And then, they get their mission call 3 or so months before. And then, they have all this time to prepare. So how much time did you have from when Elder Scott called you to when you began?
Less than 2 months.
2 months. Wow.
Less than 2 months, because it was not really planned. The mission presence was already called, and less than 2 months. So we went to Salt Lake, not really prepared.
Nice. You still had some shopping to do, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. So they flew you to Salt Lake to Provo for the mission leader seminar,
yes.
right? Is that?
Yes. Yeah. My wife and I.
Okay. And you're getting thrown into this. So you when you came to Utah, had you been released as stake president yet?
I was not, because the stake was not reorganized.
Okay.
I was still stake president when I went, but when I came back, they reorganized the stake, called a new stake president.
Yeah. And this was 2005, right? When you're called as a mission president?
Yes, 2005.
Okay. And the expectation was that you were going to serve for 3 years.
Yes, and that was 3 years. Mm-hmm.
And this is unique, and I think it may be, I don't know how often this happens, but a lot of the time when a mission president is called, rarely do they serve as the mission president in the area where they live, right? And so, but you were called from Ivory Coast to serve in the Ivory Coast, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. So did you move to a mission home, or did you just stay in your own home?
I moved to the mission home.
Okay. Was it very far from your home?
Yeah, very far from where I was living.
Okay. Gotcha. So what do you remember just starting off as I think you were 35 at this time. You're brand new, 10 years into the church, maybe hopefully you've learned a few things about how the church works by then, right?
Yeah.
And what was it like starting that experience?
I think it was like same thing, a bishop or stake president, where you don't know anything. Admission was totally different, because you have to work with this young rising generation, the missionaries. But again, they were very good leaders. My 2 assistants was very good. So they really helped me. And the area presidency also, they were so good. And always having a training with me on phone, and coming to tour my mission. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So but you mentioned so a civil war had broken out. Was it still going on during your mission then?
Yeah, but it was in the north of the country. Yes, and we were in the south.
Gotcha.
But it was not very peaceful for North American to stay.
Nice. So they transferred all North American missions to other missionaries.
Yes.
Gotcha. And so they're primarily, so there are many missionaries from the Ivory Coast, but even other African nations.
They're all African missionaries, even from Western areas. They sent them to my mission.
That's cool.
We're all African.
Wow. That's great. That's really cool. Anything unique about that experience? Or was it just you were all from the same continent?
Yeah, but from the same continent, and we also know more about our tradition.
Yeah.
And so we interact with people very easily, and we are not afraid to, and people really welcome us because we are all African. Yeah. So that's really help us.
Nice. So I know your native language there is French. So, but I imagine, was that the case for the other African missionaries as a mission president, or did you primarily speak English, or how did that work?
Yeah, there were missionaries from English-speaking countries.
Okay.
So when they come, we help them learn, because there were no MTC. So they just go straight to the mission field.
And they all learn French, right?
They learn French. So the missionaries who train them, we select the one who can teach French also.
Gotcha. Nice. So their trainer, their companion, is their mission and their MTC, right?
Yes, that's like an MTC for them.
Nice. And I would imagine not all of the missionaries that came to you were endowed, because there a temple nearby at that time, or?
No, they were not endowed, but those from area where there is a temple, for example, South Africa
Yeah.
or France, Europe, because we received 2 or 3 African, they were endowed.
Oh, great. But it wasn't, would you say the majority were not endowed?
The majority was not.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That's great. And so anything else that you learned during those 3 years as a mission president?
I learned to be very close with my wife.
Nice.
Because when I joined 2 years later, when I joined the church, I traveled to South Africa, so we're not close. When I came back, they called me as bishop, so I was presiding, and she was with the kids.
Oh, yeah.
So that, stake president, but the mission, we are now companion.
Nice. And you finally got that mission that they promised you, right?
Yeah, that's 10 years after.
10 years after, but hey, you got it, right? Very cool. And how old were your kids when you served as a mission president?
I think the oldest were 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and the youngest was 3 months.
Wow. And how many kids do you have now?
There were the 4 was with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a very young family. All the 4 was with us on mission.
Nice.
That's why they love to go on missions. All of them serve now on mission.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's great. And obviously you had some mission presidency counselors, I would imagine, that helped you out. But how did you involve your wife in that work, since she was also set apart as a missionary?
Yeah, she worked. She focused more on the missionaries' health issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also trains missionary sisters to So that cool. Was a major role, because you can't sleep. So she was the one to advise them what to do to stay strong.
That's great. Anything about that 3-year mission? Anything else that we haven't touched on that would be worth mentioning?
Yeah, I think some of the thing is how to help the church grow in the country. So during that time, we opened branches outside Abidjan, because all the church was in the capital.
Oh, okay.
So that was a good experience to have a church in the different cities where it was not before.
Nice. And I think before we hit record, you mentioned that at that time that was the only mission in the Ivory Coast, but now there are 3 missions there.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. That's really cool. All right, so you come home from your mission and you think, now what?
And I think 3 months before it was in April, I received a call to be in Area 70.
Oh, okay. So you already had your assignment.
Yes, I went to Salt Lake with my mission president tag.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then they ordained you as a 70.
Yes, Area 70. Yes.
Area 70, great. And so then you fly back to the Ivory Coast, and what was that?
After the general conference, I flew back to Ivory Coast to stay, and I received also a new job, but was relocated to Ghana to be a Seminar Institute area director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we all went to Ghana to stay there.
Gotcha. So you went from the mission home in the Ivory Coast to a new home in Ghana.
Yeah, but after the mission, we left the mission home for 1 year. We rented another apartment.
Oh, okay.
And from there, we went to Ghana.
Gotcha. And so you were teaching like institute classes and associated with the local university, or how did the institute program, how does it work there?
The institute program was focused on the young single adults in the church. It's not connected to any university.
Okay.
So we organize institute classes in the church units with young single adults. So
Gotcha.
you have a class also you can teach.
Nice. And that was as the director, that was your full-time job, and you were teaching classes yourself, but also training other instructors?
Yes, yeah. That's the full-time job.
Gotcha. And then what was it like being in Area 70? What were your Sundays like?
It's like any Sunday, but you preside, and
Okay.
you preside, and you also work with stake presidents, because your job is to grow the stake presidents to help him to manage well his stake.
Yeah. Nice. So were you visiting different stakes each week?
Yes, you can visit stakes, but you have also coordinating council meeting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
How-
with a mission president and stake presidents.
Nice. And were those about every 3 months or so, or?
Yeah, I think every 3 months, when we finish the meeting with the area presidency, yeah, we take all the instruction received, and we go and train the stake presidents and mission presidents.
Wow, that's great. And then typically that's a 5-year calling. Is that how long it lasted for you?
7 years.
7 years. You got a few bonus years, huh?
Yeah, 2 years bonus.
Oh, that's great. Anything else that you learned just about leading during those times as a Area 70?
Oh, I learned the church is the same, because as Area 70, you travel in the area. It's not only your country now. You go to a different country to preside a district conference, state conference. So you learn more from other experiences.
Yeah. And I imagine you did a lot of speaking in wards or state conferences, right?
Yes, in the state conference, but world conference we don't attend because it's a stake president's duty.
Gotcha. So, just from your experience of speaking to a stake or whatever it be, any advice that you would give someone that's preparing to speak to either in sacrament meeting or in a stake conference?
I think that is to acknowledge why you are there, because you don't have a key, and you are assigned by the first presidency, the 12 apostles.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to acknowledge that. So it's not your duty. You are not there because you want it, but you are assigned to preside the stake conference.
Yeah.
And also work very closely with the stake presidency, so they will know if there are some issue. You talk to them in the private room where they can understand, and in the public, really help them to grow and be loved with their stake members.
Nice. Really, really interesting. So then 7 years into being in Area 70, they released you. And how long ago was that for you?
It's fine now, and I'm released, and I in my ward as a Sunday school teacher.
Oh, cool.
Now.
Nice.
So
nice. And I imagine you enjoy that.
Oh yes, that's it. I love to teach now. So nice. And I also help return missionaries to become self-reliant. So I organize a self-reliance group meeting every once in a week with missionaries in our state.
That's great. And then and now you don't teach, or you're not an institute director. You work with the church history department. Is that right? What is it that you do for the church history department?
The church history department is to collect, preserve, and share the history of the church.
And so you do that for the history of the church in Africa?
In Africa West, and Africa Central.
Oh, cool. Nice. And so what does that entail? You spend a lot of time in collecting informations or recording stories, or what does that entail?
Like we are doing recording stories.
Nice. Well, I'll make sure you get a copy of this so you can put it in the history.
Yeah, that will be a good history.
Very good. Well, I bet you enjoy that. And so you're teaching Sunday school, and man, you've lived a life that many individuals in the church, they're about 95 years old by the time they've had all those callings. So, but you're still a spry young leader, right? So,
yeah, like African.
Yep. So, how would you describe the church there now? Like, what I mean, we hear obviously in the United States and in Utah, we just hear that the church is growing like crazy in Africa. But how would you describe it? What's the church like and the growth there now?
The church is growing very fast, and because the way is changing people, and people really want to look like others who have joined the church. Mm-hmm. So it is making an amazing change among the rising generation in Africa. So we have more single adults joining the church, and later on they become a leader. So the church I think, is one of the last chances for Africa to make a change.
Nice. And you have all sorts of temples now to consider, or some that are being built, right?
Yeah. Right now in my country, the temple is almost completed. I think next year it will be dedicated. We have temple in Ghana, Accra. We have temple in Nigeria, and 5 more announced.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And probably by next conference, President Nilsson will find 10 more to announce there, right?
Oh, yes. Like always in conference.
Nice. Yeah, that's probably an exciting time to hear what's announced, just like it is for all of us. But, Norbert, this has been so fun to learn and to hear about your remarkable journey, being baptized and then just, running through a timeline of leadership responsibilities. And I know you've probably blessed so many lives and been a blessing to so many in the gospel there. The last question I have for you is, as you reflect on your time as a leader, as a bishop, stake president, mission president, Area 70, how has being a leader helped you become a better follower of Jesus Christ?
So that's a very interesting question, because you cannot be a good leader without the Holy Ghost. And that's because it's not your church, it's the church of Jesus Christ. So being a leader, you have to read the scriptures every day and also study the handbook. So that will help you to be close to Christ. If not, you bring your own tradition.
That concludes this episode of the Leading Saints podcast. We'd love to hear from you about your questions or thoughts or comments. You can either leave a comment on the post related to this episode at leadingsaints.org, or go to leadingsaints.org/contact and send us your perspective or questions. If there's other episodes or topics you'd like to hear on the Leading Saints podcast, go to leadingsaints.org/contact and share with us the information there. And we would love for you to share this with any individual you think this would apply to, especially maybe individuals in your work council or other leaders that you may know who would really appreciate the perspectives that we discussed. Remember, solve the burden of meetings by visiting leadingsaints.org/14 and getting 14 days access to the Meetings with Saints virtual library.
It came as a result of the position of leadership which was imposed upon us by the God of heaven, who brought forth a restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And when the declaration was made concerning the only true and living church upon the face of the earth, we were immediately put in a position of loneliness, the loneliness of leadership, from which we cannot shrink nor run away, and to which we must face up with boldness and courage and ability.